Greetings to everyone who has joined in today. My name is Lynn Snej, and I'm the director of the Arts and Culture Center at the Middle East Institute. I want to welcome you all to our panel today entitled Lens on North Africa, the Rise of a New Generation of Photographers. The panel is one of several programs coming out of our current exhibition, More Than Your Eyes Can See, Contemporary Photography from the Arab World, that opened on June 3rd and will be up until October 21st, 2022 at the MEI Art Gallery. The exhibition is in partnership with Tribe, a publication and a platform focused on documenting photography, video, and new media from the Arab world. And we have the pleasure of having its co-founder and photo editor, Suraya Shaheen, lead us into today's conversation. Suraya's knowledge of the photography scene in the region and her guidance have been instrumental in bringing this show together. So a great deal of thanks to you, Suraya, for all the hard work and all the knowledge and guidance and for being with us today. A few words about the exhibition. It is curated by independent curator, researcher, and exhibition producer, Leila Abdelhadi Jadallah, and it features the work of 15 photographers at the top of their game, who are redefining the practice of photography in the Middle East and beyond. Employing photojournalism and fine art photography, their diverse work, which explores notion of place, identity, the body, the environment, youth culture, politics, and so much more. All of the work provide an in-depth and intimate and dynamic lens from which to see the Middle East region, which is so refreshing. For those who have not yet had the chance to see the exhibition, it's up until October 21st, as I've mentioned. So if you are in DC, come see the show. It is beautiful. Our gallery is open from Monday to Friday from 10 to 5 p.m. And you know, it is a testament to the incredible talent of photographers from whom we're going to hear in a few minutes. And you can make an appointment on our site on www.mei.edu. Go to the Arts and Culture tab, and you can make an appointment. But walk-ins are also very welcome. You can also find out more on our website about MEI's Arts and Culture Center programming, our exhibitions, and so much more. Turning to our program today, we are joined by two fantastic participating photographers, and we are so honored to host Iman Jamil and Fathi Sahrawi. Thank you for being with us. They are joined by Dima Abdelkader, an art expert and an art enthusiast who has done so much to support artists from the Middle East. Thank you, Dima as well, for joining us. I will leave Suraya to introduce them and their work in what I am sure is going to be a lively and inspiring conversation. And before I turn it all to Suraya, to our moderator, let me tell you a little bit about her. Suraya Shaheen is a freelance photographer and the co-founder and photo editor of Tribe magazine. It is a non-profit publication and platform which focuses on contemporary photography from the Arab world. From her base in Dubai, Suraya has spent many years traveling the region, still does, building an archive of contemporary artist portraits and so much more. She has been featured in several books and magazines, such as Arab Photography Now by Rose Isa and Mishkat Krifa, as well as many magazines and publications such as Harper Bazaar Art, Vogue Arabia, The Economist, and many more. Before I turn it over to Suraya, a few housekeeping notes. Our moderator looks forward to taking all of your questions, and you can, for our audience, you can put your questions through the Q&A button that you see on the bottom of your screens. If you are watching our panel on the live stream, you can ask a question by emailing events@mei.edu. If you have any technical difficulties, also email events@mei.edu. Feel free to ask a question at any time during the conversation, and Soraya will try to incorporate as many as she can in our limited time. With that, thank you very much for joining us today, and over to you, Soraya.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you so much. That was really kind of you to with your introduction. And I'm going to keep my introductions of the artists very brief, because I want to hear from them. I think it's always really important to hear the voice of an artist, and we have that opportunity today. So well, I was going to start with Dima, because just to put everything in context, how sort of like the other side of what happens behind the scenes and the marketplace and the space that she created. But I'm going to go to Fethi first, because I know that well, I'm so glad you're here. I know that it was challenging to get on Wi-Fi from where you are, and maybe you can tell us a little bit why and where you are and what you're working on.
Hi everyone. Hi Soraya, thanks for having me. So it's funny, but currently I'm in my parents' place because I'm working on this movie project. I feel like I'm in a sort of a negotiation in reality, because I wanted to shoot this movie in another area, but things are not working. So I had this idea to come back to my small hometown where everything started with me, and I'm trying to shoot this movie in my hometown. I'm trying to shoot some sequences that are related to the movie, and yeah. So just this morning I was trying to do some stuff, and now I'm trying to join you during my lunch break.
I'm so glad you did, because I was talking to Iman before, and she's like, don't pressure him. He's been trying to get these, like, I guess it's like you have to get permissions and stuff like that. And so finally you're on the right track. So I'm so glad. I also we have some images from the body of work that's showing at the MEI, Stadium Philia. So Faria, I think, can help us with the screen to look at some of the work, and maybe you can talk about it. I know it's ongoing.
Sure. So from where to start on Stadium Philia, as the title might indicate it, this is a story or body of work about two stadiums, one of them in my hometown and another one in a neighboring area. It all started from year 2015, even if the idea of documenting what was going on inside the walls of these stadiums always existed for me. But the idea was to follow a group of youngsters who define themselves as ultras, and ultras are a group of fanatics, people about football. They're super organized, but what was particular about this group of youngsters is that they're super young, as we can see in the images. And what's interesting is that according to the local law, the Algerian law, because it's happening in Algeria, they are not allowed to get to the stadium because they're under 18, unless they have a tutor with them or something like that, like someone who can accompany them. But what was interesting is that they're ready to do everything to get inside the stadium, and obviously to support their local team, because they're very passionate about it. But after spending some time with them, I've noticed that they're not only there about football, even if it's worth to mention that it's a very popular game and all, but I have realized that they go there because for them, it's the stadium represents a sort of a platform to express their thoughts and their feelings, and so they're super organized. They have these chants which they compose and which they keep singing during the whole duration of the game. And what's interesting is that the content of the songs, it can be about their football club, but it's also about their daily life, their dreams, their temptations. It's also about love. So they speak about their relationships, their romantic deceptions, also about their dream to join the other side of to join the other side of the Mediterranean. And here I'm talking about Europe, but sometimes also their wish about a better future in the homeland. So it's full of complexities and full of mini stories happening in one place. And what's funny is that it's until recently that I've realized that I've always wanted to be there. The reason why I couldn't do it at a younger age, maybe because my family, they tended to be somehow overprotective with me. So that's why I couldn't do it. And I think that photography was just a sort of a pretext or an excuse to get in there and to understand what was happening with these people, because a lot of them, like, they're from my neighborhood, and I think that the first time that I've heard about the existence of this group of youngsters who go to the stadium, it was in my neighborhood, but I couldn't do it until I've started photography. So that's how it all started with me.
And then you're able to share these stories with us through these like beautiful black and white. I mean, do you always shoot in black and white? Is that something that you chose to use black and white with this series, right?
Yeah, I think that I don't want to define my photography to be black and white or color, or I think for me, it's a matter of feeling. I don't want to see that I see the world in black and white. I want my photography to be beyond this. For me, like, shooting black and white or color is just a way of writing. But what's for sure for me is that I think that I have this instinct that allows me, before getting to a place, I start making sort of imagination about it. And at some point it will allow me to decide if it's going to be color and black and white. But yeah, I think that most of what I shoot, it's in color. And I think that it can be a sort of an answer to a technical issue, because often in these places, light can be harsh. So black and white can be very collaborative. So maybe that's why.
Well, I like how you said that this is how you write. You know, you're like writing in black and white. Well, you're telling this story, and I think it's so interesting that actually both you and Iman are grantees of this. I mean, a Game Changer program in the region, the Arab documentary photo program, and I know that the storytelling of artists and photographers now is it's just so important to hear your own narratives. And so you've seen this story and you've conveyed it to us. I was curious about when we're showing it in the gallery, you had a specific way how you wanted it to be presented. Can you talk a bit about that? Because actually, when I saw the work originally, I saw it at a very like iconic exhibition in Dubai. That's the first time I think I met you and saw your work. It was that All What I Want Is Life, that intense exhibition. And your work was big squares, right? They were, and in the exhibition here, we've gone smaller.
Oh yeah, maybe because I do define myself, like, before being a photographer, I see myself as a junkie about this medium, which is photography. So before even starting taking pictures, I do see myself as a consumer of pictures. So even I think that with this project, before landing in the stadium, there wasn't the idea of making a story. I just wanted to get in there and interact with these people and understand their stories and all. And then I didn't even have a title or the basic guidelines of a story. And then it kept evolving. And at some point, there was an interesting amount of pictures. And I said to myself that this can be the beginning of a project. And when it came to the exhibition, I think that I wanted to do something different, because it's a project that it's been a couple of years since it has been showing on different places and all. And I wanted to show it in a different format. So to play with these square pictures, because the pictures, by the way, are made by an iPhone. But by the way, people often ask me, like, why an iPhone and all? And I do say that it's just a tool that I feel very comfortable with, and especially with the context of the stadium, like, it helped me very much, because there was the presence of the policeman who like can be very suspectful of a photographer trying to make picture of the people I mean the crowd a lot, because at some point I think that I turned my back to what was happening on the ground with the players, and I was trying to document this group of people. So I think that choosing such a tool helped me to be somehow more inclusive, but at the same time more immersed with what was happening with these people.
You're light on your feet, right? Like, I mean, man, do you use an iPhone? I was just saying, Iman, do you use an iPhone? I just thought I'd just bring in.
No, I'm new in the smartphone game, so I do selfies, but I guess I'll come to something more professional in a year. Now I'm just doing selfies.
Okay. But
no, I don't use my iPhone for my series.
Well, I can see why you do use it, Betsy, to get really sort of you're in a space where you need to be very quick and nimble, and I think these images are just beautiful. So they are in the exhibition, but they're also involved. They are also part of a book project, which I'm super fascinated by. I've never seen a book like this before. I will go back because I have a video of that, but I just wanted to bring Dima into the conversation. And actually, this is such an informal Zoom. I was hoping it to be an informal Zoom where people can, any of us can just start talking to one another. And Dima, I wanted you to talk about the space that you created with Emerge East and tell us why you did what you did and how, well, we were talking about this exhibition that's in a physical space, yet you've created you have a word for that, and I'll let you explain.
Of course. For those, first of all, by the way, thank you so much for having me on this panel, and thanks to Leila Jadallah, Tribe, and MEI for everything that you guys have done for this awesome exhibition, which I think it's a long time coming, given, I think the thirst that we had during COVID. So just for those of you who don't know, Emerge East is the first online gallery coming out from the Middle East for young artists, for emerging artists and young collectors. We launched in 2014, so 8 years ago. At the time, going online it was bittersweet. It felt a bit lonely at the time because no one else was around. But it was also really exciting because our mission and vision, so Nikki and I, my other half of Emerge East, Nikki's Iranian, I'm Palestinian, and we categorize ourselves as third culture kids who wanted a piece of home. We were 20-somethings. We wanted to start collecting art, and we wanted to build our own narrative through other artist creative dialogue. And we had a lot of friends ask us, where and how do I do this as well? So we didn't think of online first. The causality wasn't online and then do this. It was, how do we do this? We are from the Middle East. It's a vast area, so diverse, so rich in tradition, in identity, in a lot of dialogue through a lot of creatives. So we wanted to bridge the gap between, individuals, artists, creatives from Casablanca to Mashhad and Tehran, and everything in between under one umbrella. And at the time, the only way to do this was through online, especially as the younger generation was tech savvy. So we wanted to, have a one-stop shop, a meeting point for young creatives to be on one platform for the young generation to access. And online, actually, another reason online was helping is because it's a safe space, it's comfortable. A lot of the younger generation felt a tad bit intimidated maybe to get into the collecting journey. They probably felt that, I don't get art speak, I don't get art, I didn't study it, but Nikki and I, our mission was to break that down. We wanted to facilitate art collecting and convert the masses to engage in art on a daily, essentially. So online facilitated that and broke down those barriers. And here we are today, 8 years later. We started with 14 artists, now we're at 54, from artists across North Africa, across the rest of the Middle East, as well as a massive collective from Iran. And of course, a shout out to the artists from the Middle East and the diaspora. That was a big deal for us to put the diaspora as well together, so we're all connected on a global level because we have a lot of different stories. And here we are today, kind of in the metaverse. I think this is the metaverse already on Zoom, but we have branched out into NFTs as well, because that really sticks with our mission.
Well, I know, Fethi, you have an NFT. I've seen something online. Is that right?
Yes, I think that during the COVID area, I think that's something it's beyond us now. I was reached out by a platform which is based between London and Dubai, and yeah, they did this NFT which is about this project, and
Yeah.
about another project which is related to the popular uprising in Algeria. So because I'm seeing this question on the toolbar about the link maybe between what was happening on the stadium and the popular uprising that started in 2019, and maybe I'll try to answer the question of Boubacar, right? So first of all, I think that I don't see it as a failure. The popular uprising in Algeria, a lot of people I'm saying that. I think that what I'm going to say, it's subjective, but at some point, people, they couldn't maintain the fact of protesting on the street every Friday. So we had to go to something else. So I don't know, but I think that all what are we doing in our daily lives, it can be considered as a continuation of this popular uprising. And what was more fascinating with me is that I've started the project of Stadium Filia in 2015. And when the popular uprising started in 2019, for me, it felt like a continuation of what was happening in the stadium, because I feel like the people, or mainly the youngsters that I was documenting in the stadium, they were the protagonists of this movement. So they were them who were leading the front line of the crowds who were protesting in the street. They were them who were orchestrating this movement. Maybe what was saddening a little bit is that they were considered as a lot of by a lot of people as thugs, or as people they don't have this political consciousness, but they were here to prove the opposite. And I was just trying to witness in that with them, and I think that me working with my camera, it was also my way to protest with them. So that's how I see it.
And humanize.
Hmm?
And humanize.
It's, I don't know if even it's about humanizing. I hear often people saying that as photographer, we tend to dignify people, to humanize them, and I think that these people, they don't even need that. They have a lot of dignity, and they're showing us this every day. And for me, like personally, they're giving me lessons of dignity every moment I see them. I think that what was dangerous with me is to avoid the opposite. I think that photography can dehumanize people, but
Humanize.
yeah, and maybe that's why I try to avoid with my photography. But I don't even think that I'm trying to humanize them, because they already have it. I preferred maybe the word witness, or more fair enough in me.
Okay, witness. Thank you. Now, I really appreciate hearing from your voice. And Iman, can we show some of your work as well, which is side by side to Fethi's in this exhibition, alongside with the rest of your collective too. I know you both are in collectives, and I want to talk about working in collectives as well. But 80 Miles to Atlantis, what can you tell us?
So 80 Miles to Atlantis is a series that I've started 2 years ago. Basically, it's about the city of Tarfaya, which I've been, I think I can say, obsessed with for the past 10 years. So basically, it's a very small town in the south of Morocco, about like 18 hours. It's an 18 hours ride from Casablanca. So very far from like all urban centers. And the first time I went there, I was 16. I was going further south. We stopped there for 2 nights, and I was totally fascinated by its coast. So basically, the coast wasn't paved yet at that time, and there were a lot of ruins. Some of them were buried under the sand, and at the same time, there was no billboard or like nothing to say where all of these were from. So I mean, you could guess that it was Spanish, but I mean, it kind of like lacked information. So at that time, I was still in high school. I was very into romantic literature and how poetry, like 19th century poetry was. So basically, like a lot of poets would talk about landscape, but it was only a tool to talk about like their inner self, about their feelings. So I was doing single images and like using them as a poem, kind of like drawing a self-portrait through landscape. And then when I was 18, I moved to France. At that time, I was going to a lot of exhibitions in galleries, in museums. And at some point, so I was going to a lot of contemporary art shows. I started almost liking this thing where like you have to read a statement, like a 10 pages statement with like a lot of references, often with like Foucault and Deleuze, and then you feel like very smart and you're like, like you actually you have like you start your own mythology, but then you look at the artwork and you don't really relate. And so at some point I got like super sick of this, and I started like thinking about how, I mean, I still have like this traditional relation to the artworks, which means that like for me, I have to relate to an artwork for it to kind of like trigger my curiosity towards like wanting to read more about it or like delve deeper into the references. But like the references is like definitely not the most important thing. And so like I came back to Morocco and I was still interested in the city of Tarfaya. And but then at the same time, I was more interested in documentary photography rather than like conceptual or like fine art. So I was like trying to think about the way to document. So like document the reality of a place, its history, but through my own tastes and my own aesthetics, which I would say come more from fiction than like photojournalism or like documentary. I mean, at least like classic documentary photography. So this is when I started thinking about like a way to collaborate with my group of friends in Tarfaya and do 80 miles to Atlantis together. So like I was saying, it is like basically about the coast of Tarfaya, which is filled with ruins that date back both to the Spanish that actually colonized the Sahara in the 20th century, and then the British that were present there in the 19th, that weren't occupying it, but that had a lot of ideas as to how to make it a hub in the area, because it's very close to the Canary Islands as well. So yeah, this is when I started 80 Miles to Atlantis. And the title refers to two things. So Tarfaya is very close to the Canary Islands, specifically to Fuerteventura. It's about maybe, I mean, I don't know how many kilometers, but very close. And like there is this common belief, I mean, every continent or like every region has its own Atlantis, but there's like this common belief that says that the like Atlantis is located somewhere around the Canary Islands. So the title stands for this, the proximity to the Canary Islands, but also it's some sort of like analogy with the Atlantis, because the Atlantis was drowned under the waters because of like the anger of gods or like whatever, and Tarfaya because of like a total disinterest in its heritage by the state, and also because of desertification. I mean, eventually the coast may be buried soon under the sand. So that's what the title stood for.
The images are so beautiful. And I know that this is, you have two versions, right? I mean, you have more, it's an ongoing, it's a big body of work. We just were able to show 4. And I know we have so little time. There's so much to talk about. Well, thank you for sharing that story. And Iman, I know you're part of a collective, and part of the a conversation that we published in Tribe was really just the 4 of you talking about what it's like to be working. And I kind of pulled out some of the quotes, but you do speak about how it's a learning experience, how you will, you'll learn something. You're working together, yet you're very different. And you're saying safe is the methodical one, it helps you structure and organize. And then Muhammad comes along, makes you forget what safe teaches you. I mean, it's a really interesting way of working. And I know both of you, Fathi also is in a collective. Dima, you work with Muhammad, and I think I'd love to hear about collectives and how things change or things evolve in your work. And I know that both of you, I know 220 and Cause are comrades.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe I can go first, but the Iman's picture, I mean, the first one that she was showing from her project, for me, it's illustrates very well to, I would say, to perfection, the spirit of a collective, because we have seen people trying to clap their hands, and there is this local saying or expression in Algeria which goes like, we can't clap with only one hand. And I think maybe that's why I would join a collective, because it helps you to raise your voice and to give it more echoes. And then what's even more interesting with photography is that I've always considered it as a sport, which is very physical, because we do a lot of walking, we do a lot of physical things, but also we do a lot of thinking. So it can be also, this sport, like it can be considered as an individual game, but also as a collective. And everyone can be free, like on how he or she wants to play this game. But for me, like at some point after I met the people that we have created the collective with and all, I've like decided to play this game or be implicated in it in a collective way, because it helped me, maybe I would say, to see things differently, to have this sort of secure space where I can have thoughtful conversations and all. I've always considered this group as a family that kept evolving with all the ups and downs, all the challenging moments. And now I see it even more than a family, but it's like an ecosystem that's giving me or offering me so many things. So, because for example, now we are trying to go beyond photography. So some of the members, they're trying to migrate towards all what is curatorial and all. Some of them, they're into editing. Some of them, they're working on cinema, but also photography projects. So maybe that's why this ecosystem is very important for me. Maybe the Iman, she can highlight more on this.
Just quickly before, sorry, Iman, I want you to tell. Just also one of the members in publishing, and that's how your book. Can we show the book, because it's so unusual?
Totally.
Farid, you have a video. But Iman, you talk a lot about collectives and how you were going to go to school at first, and then you ended up. Well, here's the book, Triangles of Views. I've never seen anything like it. I think
I'll try to comment on the books quickly, but it's my first photo book. The publisher is a friend of mine, and he's part of my collective. The main idea of the book is to create a sort of fusion between two of my long-term projects. The first one is Stadium Philia, which is now being exhibited at the Middle East Institute, and the second one is Escaping Heatwave. If there is one link between the two projects, is the adventures of these youngsters and all. And I do remember that I kept saying to my publisher, who is a close friend to me, that there might be a link or sort of relationship between these two projects. And one day I do remember that he said to me, let's make a triangular book, and which is a book object. I do find the idea completely weird, but after long conversations and all, he managed to convince me, and now it's a project that had been published, and it's I would like to see it traveling all over the world. Yeah, that's what I want to say. Yeah.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. So that's sort of like the collective, like you said, is an ecosystem. So there's publishing, there's all, it just sort of evolves. And Iman, you say in the conversation that you talk about at the beginning you went to art school, but in fact now you're learning. But you're also, it's a give and take. It's all, I mean, go ahead in your own words, please. But
yeah, so I was saying in the intro that I went to art school for 2 months, and then just I totally hated it. But then the collective was a sort of school to me. But anyway, like Fateh, you were saying that the collective is important, and I think it's even beyond important. I think it's necessary in places like Morocco or Algeria, for example, where like there's no I mean, there is no actual curriculum in university or like whatever. And then at the same time, there are a lot of photographers. And what we had noticed with the collective also is that, I mean, when we would go out, we would meet photographers, would start talking, but like there wasn't a very consistent conversation, as in like you would start talking about your project and then there would be like some, I don't know if it's like timidity or like whatever, but like we would never like delve deep into our projects. And like, I don't know if it's like some sort of like fear of like telling what you're working on to people or like whatever, but like the collective was very important because we realized that, I mean, all right, we're photographers, but like photography is definitely more than just like taking photos or like beautiful photos. It's like about being a storyteller, and like once you're a storyteller, it's about like distribution plans, it's about like what your niche is, how to like become like a working photographer, what's like the difference between this sort of assignment or like this gallery and this gallery. So like the collective was very important in terms of like union. So the thing is, so when we started the collective, it was during the lockdown. Mohammed had been trying to build the idea of a collective many times, but like for some reason it had always failed. And I think it's also because sometimes people have a certain way of defining a collective, which doesn't really mean anything but like gathering a group of people together. And from there, you can have as many different collectives as people actually. So the thing with Yasmin, Mohammed, and Saif is that we really maybe gathered around the same vision. And also, I mean, our works are very different. We are very different people, but we have the same vision. And also, we have things that the other doesn't have. And so, like, we really envisioned it like some sort of, I mean, not school, but like the first year we were like, okay, I mean, the goal actually behind the first year is to like help each other achieve a certain level, as in, for example, I really love writing. Mohammed is a very good, Saif is a very good editor. So we all have different things. And we were like, okay, so in terms of applications, for example, I am gonna work with Saif as much as Saif is gonna work with Mohammed. And like the thing is, it actually really worked during the first year. We all had like grants, we had prizes, and I don't think it would have been possible without a collective, because like I was saying earlier, photography is not just about taking photos. And I mean, I've seen it, like I had always worked alone, and like the results were definitely not the same in terms of like thinking a photo series, in terms of like your own personal mythology, as in sometimes when you don't share your photos or like your archives or like your text or like whatever, you tend to like be lost in your own psyche, and then your own imaginary. And like sometimes, and most of the time actually, sharing with other photographers helps you center your work, discuss the many possibilities of it, like the many editings, the many changes, like so yeah, it was very, very important for all of us to be part of a collective. And also collective 220 were very important for us because they helped us quite a lot at the beginning. We had known them for a while. I mean, not all of them, but we had known them through like shows or like on Facebook, Instagram. And we were talking with the members a lot when we started thinking about doing Cause Collective. And also like one of our dreams, let's say, when we had just started, was to like one day collaborate with 220, which we're doing right now. So yeah.
That's so cool. I'm so glad to have one of each of you from each of the collectives and talking today. So well, Dima works with Mohammed. Do you want to talk a little bit, Dima, about this other, like we'll go back to the metaverse. I mean, we're talking about, on the ground at the stadium, witnessing. We've got Iman magically, talking about, well, very dreamy subject, but we also have like Web3. And honestly, do you mind just explaining what that is?
No, not at all. Actually, my pleasure, because I think it's super important to demystify what it means. I think a lot of listeners and viewers and the majority are thinking, oh, I don't get this. I don't want to know what this is. But it's actually quite relatable. And there's an equivalent to all the terminology you're hearing in Web3 that we're already experiencing in Web2. But I just want to take it one step back. And guys were talking about coming together and sharing ideas that you might not be very confident with, and then you have people helping you with different techniques and ideas. And I just wanted to kind of talk about Amer At-Tamimi, who is part of the exhibition. He's a participating artist, and his work is La La Land, and it's shot in Yemen. So one thing that Nikki and I wanted to advocate ever since 2014 wasn't just paintings. It was new media. It was to talk about new media because a lot of different technology and tools and techniques were realizing artists' imagination manyfold. And this was something that was really important for us to express and normalize as new media, because again, as anyone, when they hear something new, they might not feel comfortable to embrace it or resonate with it. So a lot of education was going behind that. And Ahmed, for example, photographer, amazing photographer, amazing eye, and he has a very special technique. For those of you who haven't seen the artwork yet in the exhibition, it's a photo of Sana'a, where Amer is from in Yemen, and it's actually, there's what looks like white cotton candy. There are clouds suspended in the picture, and he really wanted to show Yemen how he sees it, and as he says, quote unquote, his pocket of reality. And I found, when we had his application, we found that absolutely beautiful, that he used this layering technique of many shots together to create this one photograph. It's still real, it's still a photograph, it's still in real time that was taken. And a lot of people were super confused, like, what is this? Is this digitally enhanced? Is this? And we were like, no, this is photography. And it really opened new collectors and young collectors' minds how art is very flexible. You can realize what you want to do in so many different ways. So this is why digital art is very important for us, and the metaverse. The reason is, finally, digital artists have a home. Back in the day, not even that far back, 2015, 2016, when we would work with video artists, a lot of collectors were quite, not skeptical per se, but just didn't know how to back this up. How do you assign value to this? Q in the metaverse, or the blockchain technology has made our job, we're ecstatic, actually, because you can, so just for those who don't know, blockchain technology, the blockchain is a public ledger where the NFT is recorded on this public ledger forever. So if you lose your certificate of authenticity, no worries. It's on the blockchain. You have that ownership, under your name, under, like, the provenance is always going to be there. So for us, it was very important because it gave digital artists that confidence. It empowered them to go ahead, because collectors will now be able to engage on that level and actually assign value to the work. And in terms of the metaverse, it's the difference between Web3 and Web2 is really one major thing, which is decentralization for Web3. You don't have the gatekeepers. You don't have authorities really holding back artists or creating resistance for entry. And this is something super important for us, because it's empowering artists to create and be recognized, and along with collectors to engage. And this is why collectives are so important, because again, the metaverse creates such an opportunity for a community to grow across the world. And the metaverse, yeah, it really enabled the global South, female artists, minorities to come forth and have their work seen without the gatekeepers.
Thank you. I mean, it does seem like odd that we had you on this panel when we're talking about, a certain region or whatever, but I'm so glad that the way I could see it coming together is how you were talking about that you've created this other space, and there is this other space where, work can travel. Like, Fatih said, I hope that my book travels. I mean, I've not seen it physically, and I've seen it so much. I've seen it on the internet many times. And I know that work travels, and it does because of platforms, and it does because of and it's going to travel more in many ways. So, you know, thank you for sort of bringing that into the conversation. And I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking we should keep talking. We should watch. I'm checking the questions and there aren't that many. There is an arts journalist who's asking, who's located in Canada, and she'd love a way to get in touch with the artists featured here to speak with them. And, you know, I didn't do a lengthy introduction because the bios, all of the artist bios are on the website. You can go towards MEI, and also Iman and Fethi, you are on Instagram, so easy to be in touch with you. And I would just say that, right? Your names are your Instagram accounts, and the name of the journalist is Tracy Valcourt. So I hope you guys connect, but let's continue. I mean, I see Lynn's still here, but not. And we have, I suppose, one more video, which is the images of the rest of the collective that Iman is in cause. And, but we have some time, and I think I would like to continue talking a little bit more if we have no more questions.
I actually had the question for the artists in terms of their documentation and you guys' work, Iman and Fethi. Like, you have such beautiful works, and I was just wanted to pick your brain in terms of, you know, would you have, I don't know if you've minted any artworks, which means uploading it onto the blockchain for those who don't know what minting means, and having them as non-fungible tokens. Not so much that, you know, to say that you've done NFT art, but actually just using that technology for the benefit of your practice, like being documented and recorded somewhere. So just wondering how your thoughts on that in terms of the technological engagement.
Honestly, I mean, obviously I was very curious about it. And with the collective, we actually did 2 days where we only discussed NFTs because we didn't really, I mean, we were seeing it growing bigger, but didn't really understand what it was about. So now I kind of know how it works, but like, honestly, I've never thought about it seriously. Or, I mean, I just did this sort of like short internship of like delving deeper in it, but then it kind of like went out of my mind.
Yeah, yeah. But hey, I'm not sure if, I'm sorry I mentioned you tokenized artworks before during the pandemic.
As for me, I think that it's, for us as photographers, we're supposed to be all the time up to date with all what's happening with the photographic universe. So the experience with the NFT, I would say it wasn't that interesting for me because maybe I wasn't that implicated into the concept or something like that. And then at the same time, I think that I do come from a classical background where I prefer to see my work shown in a physical way. And that's what I've tried to do with the photo book or with what I'm doing with exhibitions when I try to show prints. But at the same time, like, I think that it's very important at the same time to be following the process and to see what's happening all around us. So maybe it's something new, and in the future it will keep evolving to impose itself as a primary medium or format.
Yeah, I think it's important to just remember it's more of a, I'm not promoting NFTs, by the way, because it's just a technology to make our lives easier. As this is what our mission is to demystify this misconception that it is the medium, you know, it's actually just the way of recording your artwork, no matter what the medium is. A lot of people confuse what NFTs are, like with profile picture projects, you know, Bored Ape, or you know, all these things that, you know, had such noise over the last couple of years with fine art, digital like works that just happen to be as recorded as NFTs. But for us, it's really about immortalizing stories through storytelling with technology. So yeah, I think that's what's important. I think the noise will calm down, like in terms of like the dust will settle, where that fine art assistance through technology, through the blockchain will hopefully come first.
Thank you. Iman, earlier you said about, there's so many photographers, but not so much formal education. I mean, it's interesting what Dean was talking about, but like, how does on the scene, like, and I do want to hear a little bit more about, what you were talking about before. No formal education.
I mean, there is no formal education, as in the industry is very different, obviously, for example, in North Africa and in Europe. And this is why, to me, collectives are very important, because like there is, I mean, there are a lot of places where, like, for example, like sometimes I go out in bars or like whatever in Kazan, and I start hearing like some stuff about like other photographers, and I find it pretty sad, because it feels like there is competition, but like in a place where like there's no industry, which is very nonsense, because it's like we have to like get together first to build an industry. It starts in a clumsy way, obviously, but that's also, I want to say, that's also the exciting part about like being in Morocco, for example, because I lived in France for a while, and it was exciting, but like at some point you feel like it's very different from like where you kind of like grew up. And then there's this thing where like being a photographer in Morocco also makes you some sort of like entrepreneur. And I get very excited when I think about it, like about collaborating with people, like talking with other people, like seeing what we can do. And even I obviously see things long-term vision, but I'm like, like sometimes you hear people saying, yeah, but their project only lasted 3 years. Sure, it only lasted 3 years, but it lasted 3 freaking years, which means that there was like 3 years with like stuff happening, like things going on. And yeah, so when I was saying that there's no no formal education, let's say earlier, it's sad, but like it's also what's very exciting about being a photographer here, and which is like also something we've been like discussing with Cause, and like how we're not so much like focused on like creating projects together, I mean like visual projects together, but like we're more like I said earlier, some sort of union where like it's easier obviously to say no to a client, or like to stand up for something totally unfair when we're four rather than we're alone. So there's this thing, and there's also like helping each other with our own practices. And like there's this thing also where like we all travel a lot throughout Morocco for assignments, and then there's something also very dramatic about like how Morocco, and I guess maybe if Algeria is the same, on like how those are countries that put a lot of energy and efforts on urban centers, but it almost feels like they don't really know the map, like exactly what it looks like. And so like you have a huge gap between urban centers and rural areas, and at the same time you have a lot of interest and a lot of curiosity from rural areas, but like information for some reason doesn't get there. So we started also thinking about like how we could as a collective become maybe legal, so that we can get fund and like do workshops. I mean, we're obviously not a program or a school or like whatever, but we travel a lot. We don't have to do them all the time together, but we meet a lot of people on a daily basis. So we started thinking about like how to actually raise awareness towards the importance of storytelling through photography. And obviously, I mean, we can be a bunch of documentary photographers in Morocco. We don't know like the histories, like the almost like, I mean, the collective histories of like every city, or so there is something very important about like raising importance, like raising I forgot.
I have a question for you, Iman. Sorry to interrupt. Like 2 questions, and one's directed at you. I'm interested in how Iman's work is in conversation or interruption with the 19th century Orientalist interpretations of North African landscapes, particularly in her use of ruins as a subject. Can you see the questions?
Yes, I can read it.
And there's another question with, oh gosh, all the questions are coming in right now. There's another one about engage with question in the West. Young people are very engaged with questions of gender and sexual identity and fluidity. Do the artists find the same in the MENA region? Big questions, not a lot of time.
Where do we start?
Well, I suppose that about the, are you in conversation or interruption with the 19th century Orientalist interpretations of North African landscapes?
This would be such, I guess this would like take an hour to answer because it's something we discuss very often with other photographers. I mean, and it's not just about like the visual side of photography, but like also
You do actually talk about Orientalism in the conversation.
yeah. No, but it's very funny because sometimes I get assignments where, I mean, like some, for example, media or like some clients in Europe or like North America or like whatever, now commission local photographers, and like we do a story and then we deliver it, and then we're told, yeah, but it's, I mean, this is not what we were expecting. And then you're like, so if you're expecting something, just come do it yourself, you know, like why do you commission local photographers if you still have some visual expectations? And yeah, so it's a very interesting question. I don't know how to answer shortly, but I would say that for me, like there's this, I mean, obviously, or I don't know if like there can be Orientalism in like a documentary series that is so close to home, because Tarfaya, I told you earlier, I've been going back and forth for like the past 10 years, so I'm not from there. And I mean, I still have like some, I mean, I always question my relationship to it because it's also in the Sahara. So I'm always like questioning my relation to the city. But yeah, I've kind of like seen it enough, experienced it enough. And also, I mean, on a friendship level as well, because I made some friends there. And I don't think like the
Did we get
the territory, and also like being in a collaborative approach makes me I mean, it sort of like adds a lot of ingredients to the I don't know how to say that, but it's like we're always discussing a series and a place with a group of people, and this group of people is made of like me, but like also people who live in Tarfaya. And so like there won't be a use of like some elements that only come from my mythology of like, or like of one person mythology. And also growing up here, I didn't, I mean, it's home. It's not like I don't know Morocco from like the books or like the paintings or so. Yeah, I guess it's just, you know, like listening to the others and like listening to the place, what it has to say, and like not applying your own mythology or like your own references, because that could be the danger also of references over a place. And but I have so many things to say, but I just saw Lynn's message.
silence message too? We have 2 minutes. What do? We continue the conversations offline. I suggest people really get in touch with the artist, because there's a simple way through Instagram to ask and chat. I mean, that's a really good way of interacting. And I know, like you said, there's a lot to say and the questions are really interesting.
Or Soraya, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Maybe copy paste the questions to us on Gmail with the emails of the people who asked them, and we can reply later.
Yeah, and I would also love people to reach out. I don't know if that got cut off, but the part about really reaching out to the artists on Instagram and interacting. We have all the Instagram, when people come to the exhibition, we have their accounts. And I really encourage just people to talk with one another.
Thank you. Thank you all. What a lively, wonderful, interesting, fantastic conversation. Thank you all for sharing your work, your insights. Thank you, Dima, Iman, Fethi, Soraya, for leading us into this. From the questions, I see that this is a question, this is a conversation that needs to continue, and there are other ways to continue it. Follow the programming that we're doing, that we'll keep on doing, and animating the exhibition until it closes in the fall. We've had a fantastic Washington Post article on it. Check it out. Contact us. We're happy to put you in touch with the artist if you need to speak to them more at length. And as Soraya said, they are all on social media and you can find them. But our time has come to an end and we must wrap. All good things come to an end,
Can
unfortunately.
we show the video as we go out?
As I'm wrapping, we can show the Co's video as I'm wrapping. Thank you for our audiences who have joined us today. Please check our exhibition and the work of our two guests today on our site. You can find it on www.mei.edu, Arts and Culture Center, and follow us on social media, Twitter @MEI Arts Culture. With that, I want to thank you all for having joined us, and I wish everyone a lovely rest of the day.